Alright gang, we're back for one last spin on this cursed carousel of medieval beef. This is video 6, the final boss of the 100 Years' War saga. A centuries-long brawl that just would not die. By the time the 1400s hit, England was back on its villain arc, powered up and ready to farm France for XP. From 1380 to 1420, France was in full meltdown mode, like brain on fire levels of dysfunction. While England was out here stacking power-ups despite a few minor revolts and regime switches. Basically, France was spiraling and England was getting ready to drop the hammer. So, Charles V bites the dust in 1380, and his kid, Charles VI, hops on the throne. But guess what? Charles VI's brain goes full glitch mode. Mental illness hits really hard, and suddenly, France is running on broken AI. Two chaotic factions, the Armagnacs and the Burgundians, start swinging at each other like it's a real housewives reunion. Civil war? Check. Government? MIA. Meanwhile, in England, folks were also being messy. Wat Tyler led the Peasants' Revolt in 1381 like it was a peasant Coachella, and by 1399, Henry IV pulled the classic "step aside, cousin," and booted Richard II off the throne, kicking off the famous Lancastrian dynasty. Yep, the same Lancastrians from the Wars of the Roses. Royal drama on both sides. 10 out of 10 mess. Even with all that chaos, England was still clinging on to its fantasy of sitting on the French throne. And then along comes Henry V in 1413, who basically said, "Let's stop playing around and finally finish this war." France was still punching itself in the face, so Henry took a shot. He landed in Normandy in 1415 and pulled off an absolute clapback at Agincourt. French knights folded like lawn chairs. Huge dub. Henry suddenly had everyone in Europe looking at him like, "Okay, king." This set the stage for the ultimate flex, the Treaty of Troyes in 1420. Under this spicy little deal, Henry V got to marry the French princess and was named heir to the French throne, while the Dauphin Charles got disowned like a failed Nepo baby. By 1420, England looked like it was about to run France like a side hustle. If you're new here, welcome to Crohn's History, where we break down the greatest moments in history and turn them into greater stories. Whether you're bored, learning, or somewhere in between, we've got something cooked up for you to keep you entertained. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. After that 1415 Agincourt W, the English were on go mode. France was still a hot mess, so Henry V figured, let's clean it up and take Normandy while we're at it. This place had been French turf for a while now, but Henry wanted it back in the English starter pack. So in 1417, he rolls up with the boys and starts steamrolling everything in sight. Cities like Caen, Bayeux, and Alençon fell faster than medieval Wi-Fi. Then, in 1419, they beg Rouen, the final boss of Normandy, and boom, region secured. Henry's out here cosplaying as the new Duke of Normandy, bringing back those vintage Anglo-Norman vibes like it's Throwback Thursday. While England was snatching cities like Pokemon, France was still imploding. The Armagnacs and Burgundians were beefing harder than Twitter stats. In 1418, the Burgundians slid into Paris, took over the city, and threw a whole purge party. Dauphin Charles' squad got absolutely wrecked. Paris wasn't even Team France anymore, it was repping Burgundy, which was now buddy-buddy with England. So yeah, Charles VII was looking like a side character at that point. Then comes the Treaty of Troyes in 1420, the ultimate backstab moment. Henry V marries Catherine of Valois, daughter of the unhinged King Charles VI, and gets declared heir to the throne like it's a royal Netflix series. The Dauphin Charles got legally curb-stomped and disinherited. France was now officially on course to become British property once Charles VI clocked out. Total power move. But France was not vibing. The Treaty of Troyes cracked the country into pieces. The north, including Paris and Normandy, was now under the English-Burgundian combo, while the south stuck with the jilted Charles. It was basically a medieval custody battle. Civil wars still raged on, and no one could coordinate a defense. The monarchy was losing followers faster than a Twitter rebrand. But for England, this was peak triumph. Prime land, royal in-laws, and crown privileges secured. Too bad that vibe didn't last. In 1422, like we mentioned in the previous video, both Henry V and Charles VI died, like immediately after each other. The timing was pretty tragic, and now a literal baby, Henry VI, was the legal king of both England and France. Yeah, the dude was 9 months old. Meanwhile, Charles the Disowned popped back up like, surprise bitch, and declared himself Charles VII. It was on. The Treaty of Troyes very shaky, and the French resistance was loading up. So yeah, after the Treaty of Troyes, France was technically under dual rule. Henry V was supposed to be Charles VI's babysitter and heir, while the Dauphin Charles got booted like a toxic ex. The Burgundians backed the English, and the country was still in political shambles. In theory, the treaty was airtight, but in practice, it only made everything messier. Then, boom, both kings dropped dead in 1422, leaving the whole French-English crown situation in the tiny hands of infant Henry VI. Very cute, but also completely useless. Most of France said, no, we're good, and crowned Charles VII in Bourges instead. Now the country was hard split. The north was English turf with Burgundian bodyguards, and the south was Charles's turf, barely holding it down. The English handed the regency to the Duke of Bedford, a guy who actually knew what he was doing. He got to work holding down the territory, buddying up with Philip the Good, and trying to make Anglo-French rule look legit. They patched up the economy, rebranded a bit, tried to make occupation seem less like a war crime. Meanwhile, Charles VII was stuck in Bourges with no crown, no coin, and zero chill. People literally called him the King of Bourges like it was a roast. But hey, he wasn't out yet. He leaned on local lords, scraped together what troops he could, and started crawling back from irrelevance. The English weren't giving him any breaks though. In 1423, they wiped his forces at Crevant, then did it again at Verneuil in 1424. Charles's army got folded like a Dollar Tree lawn chair, and now the Loire Valley, aka the throat of France, was wide open for invasion. The Anglo-Burgundian squad kept bonding, kept conquering, and started plugging French cities into their own admin system like they were installing Windows updates. French defense? An absolute joke. No money, no unity, and everyone rage quitting. Desertion rates were sky high. Castles were the only thing holding the line. The English smelled blood and pushed for the Loire region, ready to finish the job. The peak of their campaign came in 1428, when the Siege of Orleans kicked off. The city was clutch. It controlled the bridges, the movement, everything. If Orleans fell, Charles VII was toast, and France would be a British colony in everything but name. But, just as the English thought they had it in the bag, something wild was about to enter the stage. The Siege of Orleans was where France finally got out of its flop era. Before this, France was just stacking L's, morale was in the gutter, and King Cuck VII was basically AFK. Then bam, miracle moment unlocked. Orleans was a clutch spot, holding the line for southern France. If it fell, Charles' kingdom would have been cooked. The English, led by Thomas Montague, aka Earl of Salisbury, pulled up in October 1428, snagged some nearby forts, and tried to box the city in. But Orleans had beefy walls, ride-or-die soldiers, and locals who were down to throw hands. Then boom, karma hit Salisbury with a surprise demolition. Dude got KO'd by a flying rock while inspecting a fort. He died, and command passed to William de la Pole, who was about as aggressive as a soggy biscuit. Instead of pushing hard, he just built camps and camped out like it was a medieval LAN party. French defense was carried by seasoned baddies like Joan de Dunois, aka the Bastard of Orleans, and La Hire, both built different. Even with morale nosediving, they kept it together with sneak attacks and squad coordination. But food was running low, Charles was still being useless, and things were looking grim. Cue Joan of Arc. Peasant girl from Domremy said angels told her to save France. Everyone was like, LOL, sure, but then she passed the church vibe check and got sent to Orleans with an escort. She rolled up in April 1429 and instantly boosted morale like a walking energy drink. The French started going full send, smacking down English forts one after another. During the final brawl at the Tourelles, Joan caught an arrow but came back swinging. Absolute tank. By May 8th, the English rage quit and dipped. This was France's first W in forever. It broke the England equals unstoppable equation and gave the French a main character moment. Charles's redemption arc had officially begun. After the Orléans dub, France entered its comeback era. Joan was now the national hype woman, and the army was lit. Summer 1429, they clapped back hard. Georgiou, Meng-sur-Loire, and Beaugency got liberated quick. The English folded, and Charles finally had the momentum. Next up, the Reims coronation. Joan convinced Charles to go for the throne journey, and they rolled out in June-July 1429. No resistance, smooth ride. And on July the 17th, Charles got crowned in Reims Cathedral, locking in that royal legitimacy. The Treaty of Troyes, now irrelevant, even old haters were now on Team Charles. But the glow-up hit a wall. In September, they tried to take Paris, who is still chillin' with the Anglo-Burgundians, but the siege flopped. Joan got injured, the cuck chickened out, and the vibe died. Joan lost backup, got caught at Compiègne in 1430, and in 1431, she got cooked. Literally, by the English in Rouen. They tried to make her a villain, but just turned out to make her a legend. Then, in 1435, Charles dropped the Peace of Arras with Burgundy, ditching England's main ally. Big diplomatic W. He restructured the army, dropped tax reforms, and made the first real standing force. France stopped playing defense and went on a full send. By the 1440s, France was reclaiming turf fast. Paris got unoccupied in 1436, Normandy in 1450 after a dub at Formigny, and the final boss, Gascony, went down at Castellon in 1453. England only had sad little Calais left now. (1453) Battle of Castellon. France said GG's. England lost the last of its French land, except clingy Calais, and the 100 Years' War officially clocked out. France, despite being wrecked from years of war, pulled off the comeback. Joan's era, Charles's coronation, and that Burgundy peace move were clutch. By the end, France had stronger kingship, a standing army, and a new sense of unity. Yeah, France looked like it just walked out of a bar fight, cities ruined, broke economy, but the monarchy was stronger than ever. Charles centralized power, taxed like a pro, and gave France a post-war identity glow-up. England, meanwhile, got wrecked. Losing France tanked their economy and confidence. Next thing you know, boom, Wars of the Roses. Civil war, chaos, dynasties crumbling, and in 1485, Henry VII shows up like, I run this now. England took the L and had to restart its whole storyline. Burgundy tried to play both teams but ended up on the bench. After backing out of the English alliance in 1435, it helped end the war, but internal messes caught up. In 1477, Charles the Bold died, and France gobbled up Burgundy like bonus loot. This war was the patch update Europe didn't ask for but got anyway. Feudalism out, centralized states in. Standing armies, taxes, and gunpowder changed everything. Longbows and cannons became the meta, and war would never be the same again. And that's it, folks. This was video 6, the final episode in this brain-melted saga of the 100 Years' War. If you stuck around for all 6, congrats! You've officially unlocked the history but it's unhinged achievement. Smash that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to stay tuned for new unhinged sagas. Catch you in the next Curse Deep Dive. Peace.